Assemblyman, when you're our congressman, what would be your priorities dealing with foreign policy, especially around Africa and the Caribbean?
Well, I think that, as you mentioned, this is a very diverse district. And so there are going to be different parts of the district that are going to have significant foreign policy interests. Here in Bedford-Stuyvesant, of course, there's a void that has been left by the passing of Donald Payne, who was a very strong champion as it related to Africa. In the Canarsie and Flatland portions of the district, you have a significant Caribbean American population who are going to be concerned about our relationship with Jamaica and Trinidad and Guyana, Barbados, other island nations of the Caribbean. And in the southern part of the district, you have people who are rightfully concerned with making sure that the United States continues its strong 60-year-plus partnership and friendship with the State of Israel. So there's a variety of foreign policy interests that are going to be important to whoever is the next member of Congress. To your question, I think that as it relates to Bedford-Stuyvesant and the absence of Donald Payne, that it's going to be important under this president, just like Bill Clinton was able to take some significant steps forward, I think, in dealing with Africa through the lens not just of dealing with some health issues, but how do you advance an economic empowerment agenda that is more meaningful in order to help some of the economies of the great African nations thrive. That's going to be important. I'm going to spend as much time as I can. I don't know everything about the foreign policy issues that are going to be critical, but we're going to spend as much time as we can understanding that it's going to be important to be pro-Africa, pro-Caribbean, pro-Israel as it relates to whoever represents the 8th Congressional District.
Yes, sir.
Charles, Councilman, what thoughts do you have about Africa and the Caribbean if you become our congressman?
Well, that's going to be my number one. And I thank you for that, because some people want to talk about other countries, but what about Africa? We got to take the AFRICOM, the building military bases in Africa is not what Africa needs. Free trade is not what Africa needs. Paying this big debt to the International Monetary Fund is not what Africa needs. Africa is the richest continent in the world. No one in Africa should be hungry, starving. Africa is exploited, so I would first want humanitarian aid to come to Africa, and no matter what anybody says, African leaders, including Mugabe and Muammar Gaddafi, people that they don't like to mention, and all other African leaders, they were building a Central African bank and putting billions of dollars into that so that they can borrow from the Central African Bank and not the IMF, because when you take money from the IMF, they want to economically recolonize Africa and have free trade policies and everything else. So the AU, the African Union, was talking about those kinds of things. I want to do that and make sure that the oil of Africa, the gold of Africa, the diamond mines of Africa go for African people, and that the United States just doesn't build military bases. Then we need to go to the Caribbean Basin Initiative. That's a free trade agreement that's hurting the Caribbean. They need fair trade. See, anytime you hear free in front of it, you're going to pay. It's not free. That means that they're encouraging American corporations to uproot themselves, go to other places in the world, get cheap labor, and not have to worry about pension and health care and workers' rights or the environmental protection, and then cut down on the taxes and tariffs of the goods coming back. So both are being hurt. American workers being hurt because they're not being hired, and then the country that they're exploiting the workers are being hurt because the goods and services, they're not getting their work there. I would tighten up on free trade. Then I go to Latin America. We got to look at Latin America. They're exploiting Latin America as well. And then even Europe. Greece is in trouble. Italy's in trouble. Spain is in trouble. The euro is in trouble. So unless you come up with some policies to deal with that, the global economy is in trouble. And it all starts with Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America for me.